Hello everyone, welcome to our bonus episode for 420 of Conversation Street. This is our listener questions.
Yes, a listener question segment. Another good old listener question. If you want to send us a question in to answer, then you can post it on our Facebook group, or you can email at us at conversationstreet@gmail.com or however, and then we'll add it to our list. And we've got two questions from listeners who have done just that this week. And this first one, I think, has been sitting in our unanswered questions box for like a year and a half, maybe. So we do get round to most of them eventually. Our first question this week is from Rachel, who says, one question I thought of is, what is the furthest they've ever filmed away from the set? I know they've done scenes in other towns, so how far have they travelled?
Good question, Rachel.
Good question, although this is a bit different to the usual questions that we have, because this isn't really an opinion question, is it?
No, this is a factual
It's a fact.
question.
There's one answer. We could finish this off in about 30 seconds, then move on to the next one, but I'm sure
What do you mean?
We could say it was that time they went to Antarctica. Next.
Well, this is more like a feature discussion section about...
But sometimes our listener questions are just feature discussions masquerading as listener questions,
yeah.
Aren't they?
So, good question, Rachel. The first time that they ever went anywhere abroad in Coronation Street, we just recently watched it actually, is when they went to Mallorca in 1974.
Yeah, they went there for 2 episodes, and I did do a little bit of maths for this. Well, I typed it into a website, and Mallorca is 1,594 kilometres away, exactly, from Salford. Is that the furthest they've been? Wait and see and find out.
Why did you decide to do it in kilometres?
Because that's what the website came up with first.
You know that we're not talking to Europeans here.
There may be some people from Europe that are listening. Do they have kilometres in Canada? I believe that
Probably.
they might be their measurement of choice. Possibly, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Mallorca. So did you enjoy those episodes?
Yeah, they were quite good fun.
I'm glad that we watched them.
Yeah, they all went off for a jolly, didn't they? And sat around the pool and fell in love.
Yeah, they'd won a competition, a spot the ball competition in the paper, hadn't they? It was really nice, and we'd all seen pictures of, there are some famous shots of the Corrie women up against the swimming pool or lounging there in their
Yes, that is a very famous,
bikinis.
Iconic 70s shot of the
Yeah, so it was cool that we were able to watch them. One of them was on YouTube and one of them was on the DVD.
And it was a girls' trip, wasn't it?
It was. I thought it was lovely, and like you said, they were all falling in love there. Mavis falling in love with somebody doing the lights in a club or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Bet.
Oh, Bet, that was tragic.
Fell for a businessman who spun her a line or two, and she
because she decided that she wasn't going to go back to Weatherfield. She was going to stay, and he was like, "What you stay for?"
Stupid trollop.
Yeah, basically.
Bless her. I just want to say this quickly. I don't think I've said this before. Bet, to me, is one of the standout characters of the 70s, and she has actually had a character arc, which doesn't very often happen with soap characters. They're almost always fully, they are who they're going to end up being at the beginning, or they kind of quickly...
Some of them you can definitely see that, like with Rita and Mavis, for example. The way we're watching them at the moment is just how I remember them being in the 90s.
Some people get introduced for a specific storyline and then have a personality transplant afterwards when they settle into more of a kind of smooth groove. But Bet has gone from like a go-go dancing hussy to a bitter woman who's sick of being messed around by men, and it's happened as we watched the episode.
I'm really interested to see you get to be able to watch her evolution into the landlady of the Rovers as well.
Yes, I am interested as well, because
she has such a story.
I know Bet is a massive character, but she's eluded me up to this point. Anyway, we're not talking about that.
That was Mallorca, 1,500 kilometres away from here. Next up, in 1987, they went to Torremolinos. Now, this is just one episode here. I don't
even know where that is.
It's in the south of Spain.
And I am really rubbish with anywhere where people go on holiday in Europe. I don't know about it because we never went on holiday when I was a kid because we were too poor.
I was reading about this in a book the other day. They went over there to film for 5 days just for this one episode, and it was all to do with Alec hunting down Bet. She disappeared off at some point, and that was when Julie Goodyear was looking after her sick mum, so she had to make a hasty departure from the street. And then, for whatever reason, they decided, we won't just have her, come back, or Alec go and find her, and she's just, at the estate round the corner, or Blackpool even. Torremolinos. They really threw the boat out in those days in 1987.
You don't throw boats out.
Pushing the boat out. That's the word.
Were you in charge?
Have never been on holiday.
Of the lifeboats on the Titanic. I've thrown the boats out, Captain. Now what?
I can't remember whether I've seen that episode or not, but it seems like an awful lot of trouble to go through. But, this is Bet we're talking about here, so why the heck not? It was the only time they went abroad in the 1980s anyway.
1,883 kilometres, so that beats
Yeah, so that beats Mallorca.
Yeah. Then 1994, they didn't go too far. They went to France. They went to Normandy for 3 episodes for the D-Day stuff.
Yeah, that's just over 500 kilometres away. On the website I went to, 552 kilometres between Salford and I think I found some American graves that they know they visited. We spoke about that fairly recently when we did the Weatherfield at War feature discussion, but there were some really fantastic scenes with Percy and Maud and Maureen going over there, and Percy was remembering his old army mates that died in the war. And also,
it's poignant enough when you go there and you don't know anybody, just to see the graves.
The fact that it was Percy as well, who was a character that was purposefully unlikable, the curmudgeon of the street, the stick up his bum kind of character, and to see a bit of raw emotion from him, it really got to me actually. But also it was mixed up with the revelation that when Maud gets Maureen to push her to one of the American graves, and she was like, "This is your dad."
Oh God!
And so that was fantastic. And also in 1994, they had one episode where they went over to France, to Charleville, which is the it is fake. It's a fake place that Weatherfield is supposedly twinned with, and that was the whole black pudding contest thing where Fred tried to bribe the judges. Now, I don't know whether they filmed any of that in France or not. When I went onto Corriepedia, they had a very handy page for episodes with scenes filmed in a foreign country, and this episode was on it. But having watched that recently on
seemed like a wasted trip.
I don't think they needed to go to France to it, and I'm not sure whether they actually did. So maybe they went there twice in 1994. I don't know. And because Charleville isn't a real place, I don't know how many kilometres away it is from Salford.
It's not going to be more than the borders of France, though, is it? So
no.
It's not going to be a winner.
No, I don't think so.
1998, a lot of people will remember this.
Yes.
Amsterdam, Roy and Hayley.
Oh my gosh.
4 episodes.
An interesting place to visit. And I've got vague memories of it, but also really, really crystal clear memories of other parts of it. It was when Hayley went over there to get the final stages of her
gender reassignment surgery
gone, and she'd had a falling out with Roy, and he went over to Amsterdam to go and try and find her and bring her back, and there were some lovely scenes of them like going on the barges and everything there, lovely scenery, and he ends up thinking that he's going back without her, but while he's waiting in the airport, Hayley comes up to the window and writes on lipstick on the other side, "I'm coming with you" or something. And that is one of my all-time favourite romantic, lovely, makes me feel all mushy inside scenes. The big smile that lightens up Roy's face.
Roy.
I absolutely adore that scene. And that was a really nice trip away to Amsterdam. But 496 kilometres away.
Not that far, is it?
No, it's not as far as some of the other places. I mean, at the moment, Torremolinos is still in the lead.
1,883.
Yes. Can they beat it?
Let's find out. 1999, they went to Calais.
Yes, that was in the after hours specials, in the 9 o'clock episodes where Steve and Vic Cram and that went on the booze cruise. Exactly.
404 kilometres.
404
not very
kilometres.
Far.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like it's been a lot of Spain and a lot of France at the moment, hasn't it? But certainly in the 1990s, that was they went through a real period of let's just pop off abroad, shall we?
Abroad. Now, don't forget also that these sound exotic to northerners, but to us southerners, Paris is mere 50 kilometres away. You can walk there in a day. In 2000, they went to Paris and Loire Valley.
Yeah, special for the millennium. That was Curly and Emma and Ashley and Maxine and Fred and Audrey going over to Paris. It was basically after Raquel has visited Curly for the millennium,
and she's French now.
She's living over in France, married to
Arnaud.
And so Curly goes over there to meet his daughter Alice, and for whatever reason, the Peacocks and Elliots go over there as well. And
you probably had space in the car. You have to pay per car, don't you, for the ferry?
This is when Fred proposed to Audrey as well.
What palaver would it be to go to France from Manchester? I remember I was annoyed when they stopped doing ferries from Southampton and how inconvenient it was to go to Portsmouth to get on the ferry.
There was also something that went on in France then that I think Maxine got, like an artist wanted to do a nude painting of her or something like that, and Ashley wasn't happy. I can't remember.
Oh dear.
But yeah, special set of 3 episodes, and they had rather than the usual opening credits, they had like special scenes
accordion music.
Oh, if only they'd had it played on the accordion. They had the same music but different visuals of France and everything. And I think they did it was like one whole episode was set in France, and then they went back to Weatherfield for an episode, and then back to France, and then Weatherfield. So they did some alternate episodes. That was quite fun. And then they returned.
Did they have Paris syndrome?
I think they loved it, actually. I think it was fine. 2006, they went...
Hang on.
What?
That was 607 kilometres.
607
kilometres. If you want to go to our valley, it's 709. You have to go a bit further.
Yeah.
But that's not really record-breaking either, is it?
Still not beating Torremolinos. 2006, they went to Paris again for 3 episodes. This does not stick in my memory quite so much. This is the Websters, and for whatever reason, Craig Harris went over. This is when Craig and Rosie were dating.
And they were goths, weren't they?
They were goths maybe
they probably
at the
spent
time
the whole
before
time
this,
going,
I don't know.
Oh, God, Paris is boring.
Probably. They wanted to use it as an excuse to escape because they were planning to run away to Berlin together. And I think at the end...
the heavy metal scene.
Must have been. And at the end of it, Craig does go over to Berlin, and that's the last we see of him, and Rosie can't bear to tear herself away from her family, so she ends up going back to Weatherfield. But I don't remember that particularly well, and that must have been something that that you would have watched as well. Gemma shaking her head at that one.
Absolutely no memory of it at all.
No.
And that's the same distance, Paris.
Yes.
No matter what year it is, it seems to stay pretty much in the same general area, doesn't it?
It does. Mm-hmm. Finally, 2007, Malta.
Right, so it's got to be 1,883, isn't it?
I can now reveal to you, Gemma, that Malta is 2,325 kilometres away from Salford. There's your answer, Rachel.
We've got a winner!
Or is it?
Or is it? I like the way that they went further away.
Well, they started off pretty good
they
for New
like
Yorker, and then they're a bit closer. It was like, oh no, maybe not. Yeah, Malta, 3 episodes, which was Steve and Eileen going there, which was when he had the story that he ended up having his encounter with a transvestite, and he didn't realise that that's what she was.
The word that we use?
That is the word.
Cross-dresser.
That everybody knows what I mean.
Yes, I know, and it was very in poor taste in 2007. So you can only imagine how awful it would be to watch it back now.
So lots of France and Spain, but yeah, Malta was the furthest away. That's way into Europe, isn't it? Little island.
Well, it's in the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it? So it's definitely Europe.
Yes.
Just like Israel and Australia.
Gemma, we have some late entrants into this competition.
What's that?
To see
I've just been given a piece of paper.
That's right, because
written.
we are going to count the video specials here, the straight-to-video specials or
Why
DVD.
wouldn't we? We've got nothing else to do all day.
We haven't. Are you enjoying this, or is this boring, everybody? I'm sorry. It's going to go on for a little bit. This is news to Gemma.
Yeah.
So, 1995 was the first video special where they went on the QE2.
Can I just
they
ask a
filmed
quick
in
question?
Southampton for that.
Yeah, they did. In general, do they always involve travel, these DVD specials, video specials?
Mostly.
Right.
Mostly.
Yeah. So if you don't know much about Southampton, the only thing you really need to know is that we're the home of Benny Hill, he's dead, and we're where all the cruise ships stop.
Titanic sailed from here.
And if you come here, you'll be sold things like a day trip to London or to Stonehenge, which is quite hilarious because I don't think I'd bother.
Nowhere near.
No.
Anyway, they went... I don't know where they sailed on the QE2. So I've got question marks here. Maybe this was the furthest that they ever went for Coronation Street. I don't know where it travelled to when they filmed it.
Well, that's awful.
Maybe I should have asked Kevin Kennedy this. But anyway, I didn't. So moving on. 1997... Las Vegas.
Now
Surely
far,
that must have beaten at least Torremolinos.
It's definitely further away than Torremolinos.
But is it the furthest they went? The Las Vegas episode was...
that's 8,153 kilometres.
Smashing the record set by Torremolinos there. This was Jack, Vera, Maxine and Fiona went over to Las Vegas.
The trouble is with the Earth is that it's round, so at a certain point you start to come back again.
Oh yeah, which direction did they travel? I don't know how to even know that. And they met up. Do you remember who they met up with in Las Vegas?
I just want to add in, if you're a flat earther, I'm sorry if I offended you.
Who did they meet up with in Las Vegas? Because the actor had emigrated over there.
Oh, I know, but I've forgotten.
Tell me then. Remember and then tell me.
I don't remember.
Ray Langton.
Oh.
Neville Buswell was working as a...
yes, that's right.
I was going to say a card shark, but I don't think that's the right word.
Croupier.
Yes.
He actually lived there, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that was his actual job.
Yeah. So they decided to have Jacavera bump into Ray Langton, who hadn't been on Coronation Street for like 20 years.
I am always really absolutely fascinated by people who just completely change their careers. Like they'll do something and get success at it, and then be like, I'm going to go to Las Vegas and
I know, I do have
cards.
some kind of respect for people that just say, screw this life, I'm going to go to the other side of the
Why
world.
not?
Because I can completely imagine me and you staying here in Southampton for the rest of our lives doing exactly what we're doing forever.
Oh dear. I have to have a chat after this.
Over in Las Vegas, that was good. I don't think I've seen that episode. I don't even know whether I've seen the QE2 special. We need to watch those one day. So we've got 8,153 kilometres to beat, Rachel.
Next year. No, not 2008.
2008.
My maths again.
11 years. They went to Sun City in South Africa for the Out of Africa special. Now, we did watch that a couple of years ago, didn't we?
That's like super far, isn't it?
It is super, super far. This was the Battersby Brown family, wasn't it? There was Scylla, Chesney, Biz, Kirk went along with them, I think, to take part in...
It was the Sunshine Family, South African Family of the Year competition.
Yeah, that's right. Scylla was already living over there at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And she sent for the rest of them to come and get her. And
she kind of roped them into her scheme.
Yeah, they made out that Chesney was disabled and in a wheelchair, and Kirk was her other special son, shall we say.
And all the South Africans are going, typical English people coming over here and stealing our jobs, trying to become Sunshine Family of the Year.
Now, this isn't as random as you might think. Why have a special setting up in South Africa? That sounds quite exotic. I read that the reason that they went there, one of the reasons that tipped the balance for them going there, is that ITV were filming. Do you remember that Wild at Heart programme that had Lucy Jo Hudson in? All about, the plains of Africa and things.
Yeah.
So there was an ITV crew already over there, and they were looking for somewhere to do the next Coronation Street DVD special. And they thought,
we've
kill
already got
two birds with one stone.
Over there, we might as well do it.
Exactly. So that was quite a fun DVD. Sun City, Gemma, I can reveal to you now, is As the Crow Flies from Southwood. These are all As the Crow Flies.
Yeah.
9,211 kilometres. Take that, Las Vegas. This is further.
That is definitely further, isn't it? That's a bigger number.
And I don't think that we're going to beat that one, but let's just see.
I can say that we're not going to.
That's because you got the notes in front of you.
I can read it right here. The next one is, it doesn't sound like a real place. 2009, they went to Snagov in Romania.
I hope we don't have any Snagovian listeners, Gemma.
They're like, don't worry about it. We all think the same thing.
What was that place that we said, I can't remember, a few years ago on the podcast, there was a place up north somewhere that we were like, is that a real place?
Not real.
I can't remember. I don't know.
It was the one that where the salt comes from.
Maybe. It might be. Not only did we think it wasn't a real place then, now we've forgotten where it is. We apologise. Snagov is a real place. Haven't we got a
fridge magnet?
I don't know.
Hang on a minute. You carry on.
Anyway, so this was for the Romanian special when Roy, Hayley and Becky went over there. And I think this was the first DVD special that we watched near when the podcast started.
New Brighton? No, it's not, is it?
No.
Somebody sent us a fridge magnet from New Brighton though, didn't they? Because we were talking about it.
They did. Thanks very much, that person. Anyway, yeah, we watched that and I wasn't impressed at all by that DVD special, despite it having Roy, Hayley and Becky, who I adore. I thought that was a bit boring. And sadly, Romania is only 2,270 kilometres from Salford.
That still seems further away than I thought it would be.
Well, it's not.
And then, do you want to go to Romania?
No, it's not on top of my list. I wouldn't put it in the top 5 of places to go. Although we could, if we like to start doing really, really well on the Patreon, we can start doing tours of all the foreign countries that Coronation Street have been to.
We've got to put this on expenses. We're going on the QE2.
do we get to
How
use
many
some of the
gowns
Patreon?
Am I allowed to buy?
Do we get to use some of the Patreon money in the on the Las Vegas?
On the slot machines.
On the slots. If we go to Las Vegas, we can go see Joseph there, listen to Joseph, can't we?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll put us up.
Yeah, there you go. We're saving money already.
It's like we're making money.
The final DVD special was in 2010, released in time for the 50th anniversary, and they went to Peckforton Castle in Cheshire, which is 50 kilometres away. So
they were like, look, I think this might be the last one.
Can't beat Sun City, so we won't even try. I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, so it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that They haven't done a video special since 2010.
I know, it's been 10 years, and as far as I know, there aren't any rumblings of them doing one for the 60th anniversary
they
either.
could still do it, we don't know.
I'm sure they're thinking of lots of amazing ways that they can treat us for the 60th anniversary, but I don't know whether this is it. I think we might have heard of it by now.
Perhaps they plan to and then they can't. But anyway, what do you think of foreign episodes or like the spin-off things and them popping off?
It's all right. I mean, I just worry about how much money it takes, and I wonder whether that's the reason...
I don't think you need to worry, it's not your job.
I wonder whether that's the reason that they literally, in the programme, haven't been anywhere since, when was it, 2007 was when Steve and Eileen went to Malta, and they went through such a period in 1990s, 2000s, where like every couple of years they would jet off somewhere.
I mean, not to get boring, but surely it depends on things like the pound against other currencies and... stuff like that.
Looking back at the episodes we just talked about, although some of them I'm like, oh, I remember when that happened, I don't think there's many of them that I look back and say, wow, that was a classic episode. That's up there in, you know, my top episodes of Coronation Street. It's more like, oh yeah, I remember when Steve and Eileen went there and he had that thing with the transvestite.
I'm going to also say I don't think that you get more of a return for the further you go. I don't think that the trip to South Africa was the pinnacle of Coronation Street foreign filming, was it?
I think not.
I think you need to go a bit further than Cheshire, really, to sort of make an impact. But
yeah, I mean, looking at all of these, most of them you didn't see. You weren't, you know, it wasn't when you were watching, was it? They've only been to Paris with the Websters and Malta with Steve and Eileen since you've been watching, apart from, you know, what we've seen in the Mallorca episodes, and most of these. Yeah, they really don't stand out to me.
It's because they're mostly...
I suppose the two that do are the Normandy one, and I would say that Normandy was the pinnacle, and that was because it was all tied in with D-Day, and it was a very personal trip over there for Percy Sugden and Bill Waddington, of course, and then the Amsterdam trip as well. But I think I'm mostly just thinking of that moment in the airport, and they could have done that over in Manchester. I don't know.
Gone on a flight to Dublin. I think that the ones that are boring are the ones where they just go on holiday.
They go get to little capers. They
don't think of very much stuff to do, and it's confusing because you don't. What's the point?
Yeah, it's always a very little self-contained little adventure.
That's why they work so well for the video specials.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun. I mean, I'm sure that there's lots of stuff that they could do. It's just it really needs to be grounded in a plot point, like Roy and Hayley, she had to go to Amsterdam. And the D-Day stuff, he had to go to...
Yeah, well, when they went to the Loire Valley back in 2000, that was because Curly wanted to go and see Raquel, but Sarah Lancashire wasn't in those episodes. So we got to their chateau that they lived, and we got to see Curly's daughter. So that was a really special character moment that had been set up, you know, 9-10 months previously on the turn of the millennium. But, yeah, I like the idea of seeing, you know, our street favourites schmoozing around the streets of some foreign country, and I like OB recordings. I don't like the idea that Coronation Street is always constrained and stuck in that set. It's cool to see them, you know, even on the streets of Manchester or whatever.
Yeah, I like
and to see them looking through, you know, French markets or whatever. That's quite novel. But like you said, I don't know whether the return
you don't get
is worth it for Coronation Street, and I wonder whether just, you know, the Corrie finances were doing well in the 90s 2000s, and I wonder whether they have ever even considered it since then, because they certainly talk about going abroad, don't they? I mean, Jenny and Johnny are in France at the moment.
True.
Eva's over there. There's a lot of opportunity still should they want to go abroad.
Donkey Sanctuary.
They could go over to the Donkey. Maria's
Do you know what? I
Sanctuary
actually would like to watch them go to a Donkey Sanctuary in Spain.
I think it's in Cyprus, the Donkey Sanctuary.
Is it?
Yeah. Maria's Donkey Sanctuary.
Oh, okay.
The Sutherlands.
So what does Andy have? I thought
he's
Andy
got a
had
bar.
A farm.
No. He's got a
I'm
bar.
Sorry, I don't know what the twin
That's the thing, isn't it? They're always going off to see Andy, but have
Spain.
you ever seen it? I'm sure Nick Cochrane wouldn't say no to going over to Spain.
There are lots of places around the world that you could end up going to, couldn't you? Like we said when Rosie went to Japan, we'd like to see something with her.
Man,
I think Coronation
love
Street
that
in
so
Japan
much.
would be one of my favourite things. And can I just point out that the Olympics have been postponed until 2021, so it would be actually quite appropriate if they were to want to do that. I'm sure there are plenty of venues standing empty, ready to receive film crews right now, and it would make sense because Rosie's there.
And think of all the money that Coronation Street is saving at the moment, only filming half of the episodes.
I also have to say that quite a lot of
maybe the advertising's revenue's not coming in
might have
quite
gone
so
down.
fast.
Quite often they get like kickbacks or and things from tourist boards of various places. I know the Japanese tourist board is very pro pumping money into what's the word, promoting Japan. Like they have this massive grant government program called Cool Japan that they spend loads of money promoting Japanese culture abroad and sending people there. So maybe
I honestly think if I could pick
look it up.
one place in the world for Coronation Street to go abroad to film, Japan would be it. And the fact that Rosie's over there at the moment, Rosie in Japan being a Harajuku girl or something.
Oh yeah, can you? I just can't. Would
love it.
Who would you like? I tell you who I'd like to see go. Craig, because Japanese, and this probably sounds weird unless you've actually been, you will not realise how much they are very homogenous group of people. We're so diverse here in the West, we take it for granted that everyone's all different heights and colours. In Japan, they're all very similar heights and they all seem to have very similar hair. So when Craig would go, he would... I was taller than lots of people and I'm average height. Craig would be enormous compared to most people, and also he's got red hair and they have a bit of a thing. This sounds like a lot of generalisation, but...
Gemma knows her Japan stuff. It's her job.
I've heard stories about people on trains who have red hair having people pointing at them, and when you go you get pointed at.
They should just have a Corrie Gingers tour of Japan. Put Jenny and Craig and Kathy and all that. That'd be amazing.
In Tokyo not so much, but in the outskirts and in various places you very rarely see foreign Western people.
Yeah, I mean Japan is a special place for both of us, isn't it? Not that I've ever been, but I'd love
been
that.
so many times
I've only got a small list of places on my locations I'd like to go on my bucket list, and Japan is one of them. I'd like to go to New York as well.
You could visit Stella when you go.
Is Stella over in New York? I know she went over to New York at some point. The problem with that, if they went to New York to see Stella, is Stella would be in it. And I'm not really gagging for that, but I mean, you need to have some kind of reason to go over here. But who would want to go and visit Stella? Leanne, I guess.
Michelle. What's that? Who plays Stella?
Michelle Collins.
Yeah, Michelle Collins. That would probably be the only way to entice her back to Coronation Street to go, do you want a free trip to New York?
Yeah.
Also, New York is I feel like I've seen it in everything,
Yeah, but Corrie does New York.
Rather they went to Japan. If we've got an unlimited budget.
I've written down a few other ideas.
The other place I think it would be quite cool, and I need to revisit a character who would definitely probably never return, and that's to go to Barbados to see Becky.
Oh gosh, yes.
I would actually really be interested to see what Becky's up to. I hope she's doing all right.
See, now the Platts have never had a straight to DVD special, have they? The
And they
Platts
were the
haven't been abroad.
Premier
They're the
family of the street for many years.
And Becky's still over there. Get them over there. Take Max over there or something. That would be amazing. But
it's also quite strange to me that they've never been to Ireland, considering that it's the nearest foreign country.
I've never been to Ireland either. But
I've never been to Ireland.
yeah, so they could go and see some of the Connors over there, couldn't they?
Yeah.
I thought that maybe they could go to India, do a bit of Alahanning over there, maybe.
That would be interesting.
That could be interesting.
And
very different culture.
Yeah, and it would be significant as well, I think. Because I don't know. Most of the countries they've been to are European, aren't they? Or
yeah, pretty much.
They've never been to a country that wasn't white majority.
No,
well, South Africa. That's a minefield we're not going to get into.
But that's a DVD special anyway. That didn't count. I thought, Canada, obviously.
Oh yeah, that's the place they should go.
They should surely.
Really.
Honestly, it's almost surprising that they haven't done Canada.
I don't think it's almost surprising. It is surprising because
they send characters over there, don't they? People have emigrated over there.
Yeah, and also actors do go there quite regularly off their own steam.
Well, yeah, every year they have Corrie conventions and things. Like we had what's his face, David Nielsen and Oh, Peter Gunn
yes,
were over there. Were they over there, or were they going to be over there? I can't remember. So
don't remember if it happened.
Coronation Street. If they took advantage of the fact that ITV were filming out of Africa over in Sun City, why not film some Coronation Street scenes in Canada?
Well,
the Canucks would love it. Corrie is such a big thing over there. They're so missing out.
Who screens I forgot the channel.
CBC?
Could they chip in?
Maybe.
It would really make. The thing is,
they
could send over a bunch of people and leave them there for a month and make the money back just on personal appearances.
But yeah, exactly.
I don't think it works like
Win-win.
that. I think.
And so there's been quite a few Corrie characters that have lived in Canada and come back. Like Adam was over in Canada, wasn't he? Nick's obviously been over in Canada.
And there would be so many opportunities for funny meta jokes, like people recognising them when they're out and they don't know why, and it's because Coronation Street is popular there, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be great.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think there's enough stuff filmed in Canada as Canada. I think it's often stealth America, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I guess the thing
imagine if Coronation Street did that. They're like, we want to have some American scenes, but we can't afford to do it over there.
We'll go to Canada and pretend it's New York.
What an insult.
How dare you!
I'd also like them to go over to Australia, because that's another place that I quite like to visit, but you don't like the idea of Australia, do you? Because of the giant spiders there. I can't think of why Coronation Street would particularly go to Australia. I mean, I know Martin's in New Zealand at the moment, isn't he? So no, maybe
New Zealand, now that is a country that we should all aspire to live in.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind to go to Australia, but...
I thought they could do like a Neighbours crossover or Home and Away crossover or something.
Australia seems to me be just... kind of like England but hotter, and everybody's rude.
Maybe, Gemma, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this character up again. Is Irma Ogden / Barlow still living on Australia? Did she go back to Australia? I can't remember what happened to her.
I don't remember what happened to her.
She certainly went over to Australia for a bit.
I don't think there's much to call her back.
She might be there now.
The country that killed her husband and son.
You never know.
And it wasn't even a spider that did it.
They
would have got them in the end anyway, wouldn't it? One of those drop bears, probably.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of coming to the end of our lengthy discussion that could have been, as I say, answered in about the space of 30 seconds. But any other final bits that you want to mention?
No.
Okay, I didn't know whether you were on that.
No, I don't have anything to add. I think we've done a pretty good thing. The answer was South Africa.
Yeah, I'm just having a look, because I also wrote down where the other soaps have been. It's all fairly standard places, isn't it? I don't think according to the Emmerdale wiki that's there, they've only been to Tunisia and Spain. I don't know whether there's other things that just haven't been on the wiki, but Emmerdale needs to pull their finger out, really. EastEnders, they've been to Italy, they've been to France, Holland, Spain, Ireland, Portugal. I think Corrie wins.
I was going to say, Corrie wins here, don't they?
Yeah, but they are the prime soap.
They are the longest running.
But a lot of these soaps have been there more recently than 2007.
Well, look, the meerkat money's running out.
I know. So, even though the episodes can sometimes feel like a bit of a novelty, it's still quite nice, isn't it? Get them out into the real world.
Because I've been watching Modern Family recently, and every so often they do go on a trip somewhere, and the most recent place they went to when I was watching it, they went to Paris. And it doesn't really make any sense why they're going there and why there's an episode, but they always look so excited.
Yeah, it's like the flipping Simpsons as well, isn't it? You know, they're creatively dead and they have been for a very long time.
Oh my God, this isn't a Simpsons podcast.
Every now and then they just say, let's go to blah, blah, blah. And they have an episode where the whole Simpsons family go to, Timbuktu or whatever. And then there's a rubbishy episode there. They're not usually the best episodes when Simpsons go abroad somewhere.
No. Well, so
anyway.
Yeah, the first they went to South Africa, and the next place we would want them to go, please, is Japan or Canada.
Yes.
It's their choice.
That's it.
But it's only out of those two, okay?
Gemma.
Yes.
I'm going to pass over to you now because we have a second question that we're going to talk about this podcast.
Reuben wants to know, are there any characters, past or present, that either of you have a soft spot for that you feel are generally disliked by a majority of the fan base?
Well, yes, there are actually.
I found this really difficult because I was like, I think everyone that people hate, I hate as well. But then I realised that there were some people. At first, the only two people, genuinely, I could think of that I had championed who were unpopular was DC Fringe McBangs, which we weren't, not DS Fringe McBangs. We're not going to go over that again.
She's only been in like 2
We're not
episodes.
going to talk about that again. And the other one was Pedo Van Man, who was my character of the week one time, and I don't even remember what he did, but I think
he tried to lure Summer into his van.
You know me, I'm
Saved by Pat
contrary.
Phelan.
So it's quite strange I couldn't immediately think of more than that, but then I did. I've got a list.
I suppose the first job is like thinking about which characters are generally disliked by a majority of the fan base. And the thing is, pretty much every character has got a fan base, haven't they? And I say pretty much because I'm sure there are some characters that are like properly disliked by almost everybody. But everybody's got their champions.
Those characters, though, is that they're generally supposed to be disliked. It's the people that are supposed to be likeable that aren't. Those are the ones.
But the people that are supposed to be disliked, I wouldn't even count them because like often it's
that's what I mean.
You love to hate them, like
like
Jeff
Pat.
At the moment.
Yeah, Pat and Jeff.
Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to like them.
No.
But they're popular in the way.
Pat was hated by a huge
Yeah.
number of Coronation Street fans, but he was equally adored in equal measure. So I wouldn't count him on that list particularly. But you just get a feeling like going around social media and the forums, don't you, about some characters and feedback and everything to the podcast characters that people don't generally like.
I think it's difficult though to have your finger on the pulse of what people actually like, because the people that we hear from and us and the people on forums are generally more invested in the soap than the average viewer. I think it's an extra level of engagement, isn't it, to go from just watching something on the TV and turning it off and that's it, to engaging with other people and discussing what you think. So I think oftentimes it can be a bit misleading to go on the internet to see what people think, because it's not necessarily the general consensus. Surely by now we've all realised that what you see on social media, the bubble that you surround yourself with, is not at all representative of the general population, and that's why people get surprised by political results and stuff, because they don't realise the extent of other people's opinions.
Yeah, there's also a big difference between characters that people outright hate and characters that nobody really cares about or is hugely indifferent to as well, isn't there? Because there are certainly some characters that just don't. I'm going to say one right radar.
Now, and that is, I've forgotten the name of him.
Go on, Gemma, check those notes.
Robert. Now, I actually, towards the end of it, was enjoying Robert a bit more than I ever had done, because he was actually doing something. But he was being a cad and everybody hated him.
Yeah.
And then he died and nobody cares. And I feel bad about that. So I've put him on my list.
I've kind of separated my answers into like classic characters and more recent ones, and I think generally on the classic ones, I think I'm generally in agreement with most people about the hater characters, but I do want to, and I know I've only done this recently on the Patreon episode, I do want to put in a defence for Reg Holdsworth. Again.
Literally every single time there's a question about your top 5 whatever, you're like, well, I don't want to say this really, but my top one is Reg Holdsworth.
He's not my top.
This is like the third time now we've had a list of things and you said Reg Holdsworth.
Reg Holdsworth is a fantastic
it's
character.
Not a list
I find him hilarious.
Idiots wearing glasses.
Lots of people hate him. I don't know whether he was hated at the time. I didn't watch it back at the time. Had there been internet message boards back in the mid-90s,
can you imagine?
Or the news groups or whatever there was back then, maybe people were saying about how much they hated Reg Holdsworth. But and I know I've definitely seen lots of people now saying they hate him, but I find him hilarious, and I will not apologise for it. The other one from back in the older days was Ivy Tilsley, and I'm always surprised. Well, I'm surprised now how much people say they hated Ivy and how much she made their blood boil and everything. She's generally looked back on, I would say, as being a pretty despicable character. But having watched her, between 89 and 94, whenever it was she buggered off to the nunnery, I just had developed a massive fondness for her, and she was so she stuck to her morals and her her religious compass pointed her in this direction, and she wouldn't let anybody
deter her.
Or put her on a different course or anything like that. And yes, she made the lives of Gail and others hell.
Who cares about Gail?
But I really felt sorry for her, some of the stuff that she was going through, and the fact that her son was taken from her at such a young age, and she was kind of wrestling with moving on from him and Don and everything. I really developed a real fondness for Ivy, having watched it more recently. And another character that's left, and albeit a lot more recently, that we both had a soft spot for was Gina, wasn't it?
Gina's on my list, definitely. She was done dirty by Coronation Street. They made her into an adulteress, and she wasn't.
She was an almost adulteress.
Well, Tim was just as much to blame, and out of the two characters, Gina is a far more interesting person than Tim.
But it wasn't just that, was it?
She's likeable. She was played really well.
Yeah, Connie was great.
And I think I wish she'd come back. Even
before all of that happened, like, a couple of Christmases ago, generally looking on the internet, people didn't like Gina, and you get comments like, "Oh, she gets on my nerves. I know she's crazy." I didn't understand any of the criticism that was levelled at Gina, because I
thought she was.
And if I was living in a bubble where I didn't, watch any or read any Coronation Street opinions online or anything like that, I would assume that everyone would love her, because she was such a wonderful, lovely, lovable character.
Well, very complicated and nuanced, and played with vulnerability.
Yeah,
I thought brilliant character. One person who left and was sort of again done dirty by Coronation Street, I think, and the fans turned against them, was Zidane. Now, Zidane's only crime was that he objected to his wife outing herself as a lesbian and running off with a random woman.
Yeah.
And as a very religious person and a man who believed he'd married a straight woman, I think it was understandable that he had some objections to the entire process.
Yeah.
And although I think what happened was he got bribed by the parents and he had to keep his mouth shut, and he took the money and then he got fed up with it and left. I was just really sad at the social media reaction to Zidane, because I felt that Kazim Akhtar did not deserve to have the character's name dragged through the mud like that, and he was actually quite an interesting character, and it's a shame that he's not in it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know whether I would say I had a soft spot for him. I wouldn't put him in the same kind of ballpark as Gina and Reg and Ivy, but you're right. By the time he left, I was a bit like, oh, that's a shame. They could have done more with him, and the fact that in his early years we didn't really like him and we found him boring. I remember, and the fact that he got away from that had become somewhat of an interesting character, and then he was whisked away from us.
I think what happens with me is I have like this really strong sense of justice, and if I feel as though someone has been mistreated, I get a soft spot for them and I'm on their side. So that's why I've got Robert on the list, even though I really couldn't have given him the time of day when he was in the show.
Yeah,
the fact that he's just been abandoned. The other two people I've got, which is probably weird to people, because again, at the time, not particularly strong feelings that much, but Angie and Jude.
Yeah, that's a good one.
People
I was forgetting about
hated Jude, but I thought he was hilarious with all his lying and pretending to be a doctor and a marine biologist. I just loved him towards the end. And Angie, I'm so sad that she left, because she was a sensible, professional, hard-working black woman on the street. And we've got Aggie, but she is, an older person, and I thought that it was good to have a professional working woman.
Yeah, Jude really, he'd come in as part of an odd story about Mary suddenly got a son out of nowhere, and he wasn't great when he first came in. I didn't find him interesting.
He only came into his own when his
the marine biology story,
compulsive lying became apparent, and I still wonder
he was a lot
at
more
the back
fun,
of
then.
my head if he really even is Mary's son, because if he lies about being a marine biologist,
we never saw that DNA test result, did we?
I just also think what a fascinating character as well. Somebody who is a compulsive liar to have on the show.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like there's any room for him back in Coronation Street. I mean, as long as Mary's still there, there's always the possibility.
Yeah, because
I don't
she's still
get the
got a
feeling
grandchild.
that Corrie working their way up to bringing
I
him
don't
back.
think so, no, but you know,
I've got a couple of others on my list. Fizz, I've got a real soft spot for. Some of the characters that I've got a soft spot for, I think, it's partly to do with how long they've been in it, and they've earned a bit of respect from me. I don't absolutely adore Fizz, but I feel like she's
earned her spot.
She's earned her spot, and I feel that people lambasting the character online, which I do see, is not deserved. I know that she can be, a bit mardy sometimes, and I know that people say that she's not right for Tyrone necessarily, but
I think that's not true.
I just like the fact that she's I like the down to earthness of it. I like the almost traditional familyness of the Dobbs, and also for some characters as well. I don't know whether I'm ever blinded by liking the actor and actresses as well.
I can't pretend to be impartial when it comes to the actors and actresses.
No, because Jenny McAlpine is absolutely
is over now.
Gorgeous person, and she's lovely. She's lovely and friendly and smiley and always has time for you and everything, and she's lovely, and all of that kind of bundled together makes me like Fizz. I'm not going to be putting Fizz in my top 10 characters at any time soon, but it's a soft spot for her. Similarly for Sean. I'm surprised. Is Sean not on your list?
No.
Because we kind of like Sean, don't we?
I think I've gone off of him. I think it's since the homeless storyline, I just thought they don't know what to do with Sean.
They don't, and I feel bad for him. But I can see a lot of hate for Sean online, and I'm like, I don't hate him that much. He's just not given stuff to do. No, I know. He's just not given stories. I think you're
always going on about you like Sean.
Yeah, I think that he gets he gets a bit of a bad rap online, and we still find it quite funny when he does his little,
flounces,
head toss and flounces off behind the bar.
My head toss,
I know that some people have got. I've seen some horrible things written about Anthony Cotton online as well. I've never met him, but I think that colours some people's opinions of it as well. Sophie's another one that I've got a bit of a soft spot for. A bit like Fizz, in that sometimes it's a case of she's been on the show long enough. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, and being part of the Webster clan as well helps. I don't love Sophie, and I know that she can be properly mardy, but she's not one of these characters that I groan whenever she comes on the screen. Dev, another one. He's in recent weeks hopefully gone up in some people's estimations.
I think people are very
of him.
quick to write Dev off as just a buffoonish character, but like you say, Jimmy Harkison's proven that he can turn in a really excellent dramatic performance. Yeah. But we knew that.
Yeah.
I think that some people needed to be reminded, but it's good. That they gave him that, and like you've got Ed written down here as well, and the Baileys in general I think fairly unpopular, but I like all of them.
I don't mind all of them, but I'm certainly not writing any of them off at the moment, which is why they fit in my soft spots.
I think
category.
Everyone is kind of rooting for them still, but that goodwill is going to run out if people get bored.
They've been in the show for a year now, haven't they? Nearly.
But they proved how good they are with that recent story. So I would like to see them being used more, and I want to explore them as people as well a bit more. I've also got somebody you haven't written down, and that's Michael.
Yeah, no, you're right.
People will still not shut up at Les Dennis being horrible to him and saying he was
not Michael Bailey. I think it's Michael Rodwell. Yes.
I thought Les Dennis as Michael Rodwell, one of my favourite characters. Michael was so sweet and hopelessly tragic figure in the end, and him and Gail, doomed romance. I didn't really like what happened when Gail went off him and they couldn't get back together again.
I know.
But Les Dennis really gets ragged on, and I don't understand why. I think people are just ignorant and stupid, because he's actually a very good actor.
Some people just couldn't get past the fact that that's the guy from Family Fortunes.
They really can't. They don't have any imagination.
He had a great couple of years in Corrie, I
instantly filled that role. And where's Les Dennis? Don't know. He did such a good job. I thought he was brilliant.
I was not expecting to accept him
No.
quite as quickly as I did. I also want to give a bit of a shout out to Gemma as well, and I think that's probably true for both of us, and she has got her fair share of criticism online and from the pair of us as well. But despite all that, I don't think that she's beyond saving.
No,
she's just
you're
being
right.
badly used. She's being overused at the moment. But
She's
had a
been
good,
backed into a corner.
a good 4 or 5 years of Gemma before all this stuff with Chesney kicked off last year, and we
I know.
really, really love Gemma,
And
so I'm not
arguably-
giving up hope on her.
Arguably, this should be the redemption of all the stupidity of the quad storyline, having her talking about her like postnatal depression, but it's been tied up in such a simplistic way. It's almost offensive.
Yeah.
But still, like you say, she's one of these characters that you want to do well. Some characters, when they're in a rubbish storyline, you're like, oh, blah blah blah, get on with that, I don't care. I'm not really interested. But Gemma, it's still like, are they going to give us something different? Are we going to see something else from her? And unfortunately,
Ian
the fact that she's
McLeod's
got
just
4 kids
put
makes
her on
me
a
think,
path,
no.
and
Unless they all die in a horrible accident and then she gets over it immediately quickly. I don't see much hope in the next few years.
It's a real shame, because she was fantastic before all this started. It does make me wonder, like, what Coronation Street bosses think of these characters that are not liked by the masses, because they must know. I mean, that their fingers are on the pulse on the whole social media
No, I
thing.
don't. Yeah, but I think Ian McLeod said this as well. You can't trust what is said on social media, and you can't take that as the opinion of the general viewing public.
Gemma's got an awful lot of fans, hasn't she?
She's got just as many people that hate her.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This is what I mean. You cannot, and sometimes, well, a lot of the time, the reaction is purely, well, it feeds on itself, doesn't it? Because people get mad about something, and then everybody piles on, or then you get like the backlash against it. Yeah. We do this in this country, though. We do this to real people. You know, this is what has happened.
It seems as well that over the past like 5, 6, 7 years as well, the axing of characters seems to have stopped. Often when characters have left, it's because the actors have wanted to go, and I know that there's been some cases where that's not been true, but there's a lot of characters. I mean, some of the ones that have been on my list, like Fizz and Sophie, and and Sean, people are saying, well, why haven't they been axed? That just doesn't.
But that's because a lot of people
much.
axed themselves, didn't they, quite early on into Ian McLeod's reign? So we don't know. Perhaps it wasn't an unnaturally large amount, and he might not be able to get rid of anybody, but it might maybe pick up. I don't know. Yeah,
I wonder if I was a Coronation Street boss and I saw that a character was getting a lot of hate, would I just say, I don't care, I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing? Or would they say, what could make that character more likeable? Or would they say, what could make people hate that character even more? Because everybody hated Jeff, didn't they? At the beginning. And everyone still hates Jeff now, but for different reasons.
Yeah, that's
and Coronation Street knew where they were going with Ian Bartholomew's character. And if they had listened to the Corrie fans and, you know, got rid of him after the first 3-4 months, then we wouldn't have this story now.
The thing is, people don't know what they want sometimes.
They think they know what they want. And
I mean, if you read what people say about some of their favourite characters, they just want everything to go well for them and them to never have any challenges or upsets. Like Rana and Kate, people who were fans of those 2 characters just wanted them to be happy and be married and live happily ever after. But if that happened, they wouldn't be in the show.
Yeah, very true.
You could drive yourself crazy trying to appease what you think the public want.
Yeah.
But you'll never please everybody.
No.
All you have to do is create compelling. That's easy. Just can create compelling entertainment. But I don't know. It's like you can't worry about making everybody. That's the thing. Not everyone's likable.
No,
and that's the thing I think about Coronation Street. It's better when people are grey, have a grey sides of their characters, and they don't always act in their best interests or do the right thing. That's what makes it interesting. But people get mad about it.
Yeah, and it's impossible to make a show where you can please everyone and everyone will feel the same way about all the characters, especially in the show. We've spoken to some of the actors about this, haven't we? And then they say, well, you can't please everyone and you can't take criticism to heart because there'll be other people that do like you. And
I know it's very difficult, isn't it? Because people take it too far, don't they?
Yeah, they can do sometimes. We had a couple of suggestions in from some of our patrons for this question. Nancy said that she likes Tyrone, Fizz and Gemma. Would you count Tyrone as a character that is generally disliked.
Well,
maybe.
this is the thing I kept coming up against. I don't particularly know. I think that Tyrone and Maria, to me, are sort of like, they're kind of like, they're like dinosaurs. No, we're like Tyrannosaurus Rexes, and if they stop moving, we can't see them. So when they're not in the show, they sort of disappear and we don't remember they exist.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean about both of those. Rebecca has said Sean and Deb, so they're both two on my list, and Patricia's given us a very nice long paragraph. She says, I will have missed out if you've already recorded by now. Don't worry, we haven't.
You haven't.
One of my favourite characters is Sean. He's been woefully underused and misused, especially in that ridiculous issues-based storyline about the homelessness, and it seems to have been reduced to a comedic caricature now. They just trot him out now if they want to add a silly comment or spread a bit of gossip, but I really loved his relationship with Billy, his attachment to his son, and the real storylines they used to give him. Yeah, that relationship with Billy, I was really invested in that. Billy and Sean, I thought were a great couple.
Unfortunately, Paul's now taking that slot.
Yeah, well, there was Todd, and then Paul, wasn't there?
The thing is, I don't know whether they really need Paul to be going out with Billy. I think Paul would still have just as many storylines if he wasn't going out with Billy.
Well, nothing's happened
nothing
about
happened.
The fact that they're going out together.
No, they just sort of sit at breakfast.
Patricia continues, I'm also still a fan of Tim, though he may not come out looking good if he goes too far in defending his dad. I hope they'll really bring some of his history as he realises the monster that Jeff really is and treat him with some complexity. Yeah, I've definitely seen over the past year or so a big nosedive in the popularity of Tim.
Good.
Still not to the extent that you despise the character.
Well, listen, if there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that Conversation Street, the podcast, are the people that mould and shape opinions.
I should certainly well hope so.
What we say goes, and that people will generally agree with us about everything. So I'm glad that people are finally realising that I was right all along about Tim.
I don't think Tim's been too bad recently.
I think Tim is going to be redeemed at the end of this Jeff storyline.
I really hope so, because we used to love him.
I think he's going to be instrumental really in showing Jeff's evil side, but it's going to be Sally that gets him to realise.
I think you're right.
Right. It makes me sad to think about.
I think, Gemma, that is it. Thank you very much, Rachel and Reuben, for your questions.
Yeah,
I hope you liked the answers. Rachel, I hope you remember asking that question a year and a half ago.
She probably looked it up by now and gone, oh, South Africa.
I thought that was good. Right.
Well, you did a lot of good research on that. That was very well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
So thank you for listening to this extra episode of Conversation Street. I hope you had an enjoyable experience.
If do write in and tell us about your soft spot characters or other ideas of foreign places that you'd like Coronation Street to fill.
Also, you can ask us a question. Just email us at conversationstreet@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram.
And that's right.
And that's probably it.
And down here on Southampton. Just come to Southampton and shout our names and we'll hear you.
We're not on TikTok.
We are not. Right, that's it for this episode.
Bye.
Bye.